Welcome everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I've got a special guest who's my friend, my mentor, and like a brother to me. His name is Muzzie, and today we're going to be talking about how he started in property, his journey compared to mine in terms of starting. So you can also take action and do the same. In this podcast video series, I want you to get so much value and feel inspired actually to start something in your life, to make a difference in your life. So Muzzie, let's kick it off, my friend.
Let's do this. I appreciate the invitation, finally. Appreciate it. So thanks a lot for that. I think it'll be really good conversation actually to have, especially when it comes to how we started in this business. And,
Yes.
And I think a few challenges that we're going to go through today are going to be really, really useful to a lot of people who want to do the same.
No, for sure. So to those people who actually don't know you, how do you introduce yourself?
It's interesting, right? Yeah, interesting. So my name is Muzzie, and I'm based in the West Midlands in the UK. So I was born in Zimbabwe, like yourself, and I came here when I was 17, and my career path, so to speak, is a bit of an interesting one. So I started when I came here, and I got my first job when I was actually in the UK, because I was still in school and college and in Zimbabwe. So when I came here, my first job, I was working for Burger King.
Okay. So so you came from Zimbabwe, that's Muzzie jumping on a plane in Harare.
For the first time.
For the first time.
Yeah.
And straight to Burger King or
Pretty much.
Okay.
So I got here, it was in August 2004 actually that I came here, and I started my job around September time.
Oh, 1 month.
And
they were really desperate, ain't it?
Didn't waste time, did not waste time. So I worked for Burger King for probably just over a year.
Okay.
And then I started working for McDonald's. And at this point, unfortunately, even though I came to the UK with O levels,
GCSEs.
which are GCSEs here, they wouldn't accept my qualifications on O levels here. So I had to go back and do GCSEs.
So wait. What school did you go to in Zimbabwe? What school did you go to in Zimbabwe?
I went to Milton High.
Okay, Milton. Yeah.
I actually went to Milton High, and I brought my paperwork here with my qualifications, and they're like, we don't recognize any of this, unfortunately. So I had to do 1 year of my GCSEs. So did the GCSEs whilst I was working for Burger King and McDonald's at the same time. And
wait. So basically you repeated.
I did. Not because I flunked, but I did repeat.
Okay.
It wasn't my fault.
Okay. So the papers, the O levels and the GCSEs, which one are the better results?
The GCSEs are
So
the
the
better
GCSEs
results.
are much easier then.
GCSE is much easier than O level, bro.
Okay.
Much easier. I was genuinely shocked when I came here and saw the test, and I was thinking, are you kidding me? I did this in grade 7.
Oh wow.
It was ridiculous.
So
It was
grade
massive
7,
difference.
for those who don't know, it's like year 6 or year 7.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I was actually really surprised. GCSE is much easier, and so managed to get through that, got my qualifications, and then I decided I wanted to be an engineer. So I started an apprenticeship in Coventry actually.
Yes.
Initially I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. So I worked.
Okay. So you're just like me?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do actually to start with. And I got a job at just outside the Coventry airport where we did some repairs, basically refurbished all sorts of parts for cargo airplanes.
Oh, okay.
And I found that really fascinating, but it was such a difficult job. Such a difficult
So you were you like a aeroplane mechanic? Or?
Yeah.
So aeroplane mechanic.
Pretty much, yeah.
So was that like more like an apprenticeship or?
Yeah.
Okay.
was
So
a
there was
full-
a qualification at the end of that job. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
So the apprenticeships program that I was part of, the first year does a foundational engineering. So you're taught to be an electrician, you're taught to be a welder, you're taught to be anything engineering focused. And then you can specify on what you want to do.
Yeah.
And what that company actually does is they put you in jobs that align with what you said you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a 4-year apprenticeship. The first year you're just in college. Second year you start going to places in placements.
Yeah.
And my first placement was that place at the airport. And I lasted there probably about 9 months.
9 months. Okay.
Yeah. And it's a
They
very...
fire you or you left?
I actually requested to go somewhere else because that job was tough. It was absolutely tough. It's not... I mean, the concept of being an aerospace engineer, what I had in my head is not what I saw when I got there.
Yeah. I mean, like, to be honest, like, a lot of people confuse the word engineering, mechanic, and technicians.
Yeah.
You know, because those are like 3 different career paths.
Absolutely.
I can say this because, like, obviously me and you, we did the same engineering background. So I didn't go through the route of apprenticeship. I went straight from GCSEs. I did IGCSEs actually. So international ones.
The easy
widely
one.
recognized, not the easy ones. Then came to the UK, did my A levels. So the science subjects like maths, chemistry, biology. Then did the traditional route of going straight to university, which I studied a BEng in aerospace engineering. But like when you tell people, oh, I'm starting to be an aerospace engineer, oh, so you're gonna be changing the balls, etc. No, I'm the guy who's designing it, doing the stress calculations, all this kind of stuff, lift aerodynamics, you know. But like that's the engineering part, man. Like let's talk about the interesting things.
So that, to be fair, that engineering path itself, it kind of slowly led into, I think this is how usually things work. You have an idea for what you want to do, and as you go forward towards that, you realize, actually, this is not what I want to do. And then you start getting slowly steered towards what you do actually want to do. I think at the point where you're starting out, where you're not really sure what it is that you really want to do, you just start off with what you think. And then what you don't want to do will tell you that, okay, this is not the right way, and you keep just getting slowly directed into what you do want to do.
Yes.
Yeah. So eventually I kind of went up the corporate ladder, different companies, and I ended up, before I left my job, I left my job as a business improvement manager.
Okay. That's
working
good.
for,
corporate. So I mean, like,
world,
I think the start is very important because it lays a foundation.
Really does,
you know. So for you, were you influenced by someone? Did you have a role model, someone you saw? Or I mean, like, if you take a kid from Zimbabwe and say aerospace engineering, they were like, "What's that?" Like, did you see? Obviously, they are there, but not everyone is exposed to these things. So, what gave you that exposure? Was it coming to the UK? Well,
no, actually. So when I was in Zimbabwe, I was always fascinated by an aeroplane. Yeah, genuinely fascinated by an aeroplane. And it does sound sad.
Okay.
But
did you have a toy aeroplane? Or it was
I didn't actually. I didn't. I actually made them up. So so as a kite is as aeroplane as it got for me. No, but to be honest, when I say I was fascinated by airplanes, it's just seeing them where we were. It's not too far away from the airport, but then you kind of saw them start to come down. Okay. And whenever we had, you know, everyone has that rich aunt or rich uncle.
Yeah, of course.
Who you go to the airport to get. Like
I'm the rich uncle.
Like literally everyone else, when they say uncle this is coming, we go to the train station or we go to the bus stop. But then whenever this rich uncle, rich aunt's like, we're going to pick them up from the airport. Yeah. So there was always that rich uncle, rich aunt that we used to go pick up from the airport. And whenever you're at the airport, you're like, wow. Seeing them take off, seeing them land.
Yes.
And at that time, I'll be honest with you, that was just far outreach. Me being an engineer for aerospace in any way was not something that I thought was even possible. Mm-hmm. And then when I came here and we did you know, when you're in college and they're talking about your careers
fair.
Yeah. So we go to that careers fair and one of them was aerospace engineers. Like, oh my gosh, now it's an option. I can actually go for it. Okay. That's how that happened. It wasn't necessarily a role model or anyone who was doing it before that I fancied following a path on. No, not at all. I was just fascinated with airplanes.
Yeah, for me it was actually different. What influenced me, so I've always, like, when I say always, from a very young age, I've always like to sell something. So I've always been that entrepreneur's mind, like at school I used to sell sweets. You give me 10 sweets and I'll sell something, anything, you know what I mean? Even because I grew up in boarding schools from age of 9 up until 17. I was in boarding school all my life. Sometimes you sell your lunch, Yeah.
I'm not worried about you selling your lunch. I was worried about you selling someone else's lunch.
Nah, that's bully, man. Come on.
Back to the person you took it from.
So it was like there was something which like and obviously there was no influence or anything. It was just something which I enjoyed doing, Obviously came here, did the traditional route and everything. But in terms of like actually choosing like to say engineering, it was just like that kind of decision. Like I don't want to go to university and do like a business studies course, which, for me it was like it's not diverse. So everyone was like, what, only things which are diverse, because you can see engineers in banking sectors in different areas, but you won't see someone who's studying business studies or art or something like that. No offense to those kind of subjects, but like being an engineer, it can't be the other way around. So that was actually one thing which influenced my decision. So the first thing which I actually wanted to do was study mechanical engineering. Then I was looking at mechanical, looking at aerospace. It was one of those things, aerospace sounds fascinating.
Let's do that. Yeah. So I actually started with aerospace and I actually veered off into manufacturing. Yeah. So eventually, my journey all the way to university was actually with manufacturing engineering, which is why I ended up working in the automotive industry.
Okay, automotive, yeah. So my natural transition from the aerospace engineering, I went straight into defense industry.
Yeah.
Where we make first I started off with airplane companies like Airbus, then I went to defense companies where they make defense. I'm not gonna go into it, but yeah,
you can't go into detail with that one. We understand. I'll ask you after this podcast.
Off camera.
Off camera, I'll find out what exactly you do for who.
Okay, so yes, I think that in terms of like our culture, etc., that's more like the natural way. Like go to uni, get a good degree, or get a good job, etc. Then you work,
Yeah.
Was that something which you thought like this is it for me?
No,
actually, a different path.
I think that's a really, really good point you actually raised there, and it's something that I know because you and me talk about this quite a lot. Anyway, the whole idea of I'm not really sure what I want to do, so a path is paved for you. Right, go to school. Once you finish school, go to the next qualification and the next qualification. And your version of success to everyone else's mind, and usually it's parents, is get your qualifications, get a good job, stay there forever, basically. And which is what I was talking about earlier on, that sometimes you have to do the wrong thing to find out that this is not what you want to be doing, and it will steer you away. And a bit like what I did with the aerospace one, when I actually got put into the role in the job that I wanted to do in my head, once I was in it, I'm like, actually, no, this is not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then you veer off into something else and try something else, like, oh, this is better, but still, this is not quite what I want to do.
Yes.
Until eventually, when you're like, and I know I'm generalizing this, but then typically with our parents, African parents, if you got a really good qualification, manufacturing engineering degree, right, and you're a business improvement manager for a company like Jaguar Land Rover, you are at the pinnacle of success, right? Your job title,
everyone in the WhatsApp group knows.
Everyone knows. It's like you're no longer Muzzie. So it's my mom would actually refer herself to an engineer's mother, right? It's like part of her identity now.
Yeah, no.
And then
true.
When you're at that position and you're like, it's not me. I'm not liking this. I want to try something new. I want to do something else. And then I decided to veer off to start running a business in property. And everyone is like, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing?
You've lost it.
You've absolutely lost it. And you can imagine that transition.
I think before we get into property, I just want to bring it back to like our parents thinking. I think obviously like for them, do you think what causes that? Is that the way they were also brought up, or well, so for them to actually, you know what, it's very different, because I've never seen or heard like I've spoke to many people, but I've never heard someone say, oh, you know what, when I was growing up, my parents were actually pushing me to say, start your own business. All of them were pushing you to say, get a job, be a doctor, lawyer, all those high career things, but like, why didn't they push us to say, start your own business, be an employer, not an employee? So
absolutely. I mean, I think it's just the times. Right, it's the times that we grow up, the opportunities that we see today, they never saw them. Right, the opportunities that they saw back then, which were big opportunities, to us now we take for granted because you just expect it. So, I think in where we are, typically this is what we're like as humans. We want to do something that challenges us enough to feel the need to wake up for it every day. And if you get to a point where it doesn't challenge you anymore, or you wake up in the morning, you're thinking, I'm going to that place. As soon as that happens, your motivation is going to start dipping, and it's actually going to slowly eat away at you. Because in the time that they were living, that is what was challenging, to actually hold a job for life. Because that really existed in their time, a job for life. Now we don't have that.
No, we don't.
There's no such thing as a job for life.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I saw recently in the studies, like the churn rate or the turnover rate for staff is
it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, even like now companies advertise like to whatever this generation is, like to say, oh, there's Wi-Fi at work.
That's actually attractive, There's a Wi-Fi at work. Imagine that.
Because apparently there was something which is like a lot of people were leaving because there was no free Wi-Fi.
That's crazy, absolutely crazy. And when we're talking about our parents, we're talking about people that didn't even have mobile phones.
Oh no,
right?
no.
If a good financial family would probably have a landline at home, that kind of situation. And I remember the first time I actually saw, I'm gonna sound so old, but but the first time I saw a mobile phone, it was in Ericsson.
Did it have a camera?
It didn't have a camera, actually. It didn't have a camera. It's like, really, it was crazy, but it was my aunt who actually brought it home the first time.
And was she already abroad, or she was?
No. This in Zim. In Zim, we're actually in Zimbabwe. Yeah, this was one of the rich aunties. Yeah, and we were so fascinated. Like the best thing you could do is like play around with the ringtone.
Yeah,
change the ringtone.
Snake. Snake was from Nokia.
When Nokia came and the Snake game, oh gosh, it's just another level. But ultimately, you're talking about a situation where these guys grew up where there was no mobile phones, and we didn't actually have a landline to start with. There was one call booth, like right at because we grew up in a police camp, right at the gate, the entrance of the police camp.
Yeah, were you arrested or no?
I'm gonna have to clarify that for your viewers. It's a police camp, right? Where the police actually stay, not the prison, right? Difference. So we lived, because my parents were police officers, so we lived in a police camp, and there was one phone booth right at the start of the entrance. So it was one of those situations where if you had an emergency, or your parents were at work or whatever, working wherever they were, you'd have to call their office wherever they are, but you had to run to the
booth.
Yeah, run to the call booth and put the coins in, and then get all of that. And I mean, speaking about it now sounds so inconvenient. Yeah. But back then, that was pretty normal.
But those phone booths, they still exist.
They're still there. They're still there. They're
tourists now, are they in a museum?
It's more of a museum kind of thing. It's like, this is what we used to use. Like, but then ultimately, that's the environment that we lived in. That's the environment that our parents grew up in. So aspirations for them. Now when we look at it, it's like, oh, that's all you looked up to. But then back then, it was a lot. And no doubt what we look up to now to say these are the great opportunities, we should be doing this, in 20, 30 years, our kids will be looking back thinking, oh, bless, this is all they looked up to.
Yeah, I mean, with AI coming, taking over,
I know.
like robots will be working, there will be other jobs which
Absolutely.
could be, obviously there are jobs which still need human beings, but yeah, I know that's actually an interesting fact. And obviously, like, different times where different times when our parents grew up, and
Exactly.
it will influence that.
It definitely plays a part, yeah.
So let's take it back. Let's bring it to property now. Like, what made you like get into it? Is it also like a natural succession plan, or you just fell into it, read a book, or what made you?
I'll be honest with you. I had no plan. Like, I genuinely had no plan.
No game plan at all.
Just like, no, not at all.
So you're now like happy.
It's like
you're now like what's this 9 to 5? One like nice car, nice house, everything. This is it for me. Kids, raise them. That's it.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I was following that blueprint. Like, go to school, go to work, and get married if you're fortunate. Have kids, live in your home, and then that will be it. Pay off your mortgage until you completely finish it, and that's the pinnacle of success in terms of that's the plan I was following. And I think the theme of this conversation, and I didn't even realize this up until we started talking about it, it's less about having a specific goal that I had in my head to say that's what I want to achieve. It's more of following what I thought was the right thing to do, and then in the challenges that I was facing, it's kind of knocking me back to what I should be doing. Again, when you don't know what you want to do something, and then it will slowly steer you towards what you actually want.
I do. Yeah, I mean, how does the environment come in here? Because you can like see other people in your surroundings.
Absolutely.
We're actually doing the 9 to 5, etc. So there was no one who's actually like starting a business or.
No, not in my circles. So in my circles,
what about sports? Like someone getting into football.
Yeah, I mean, in sports, I was always a footballer. I've always been a footballer, and I don't think that's ever gonna stop. Like, I'm still injured now because of football, but as soon as I recover, I'm getting straight back into football. But this is something that I'd always been like. This is down to my parents. So my mum was a professional netball player, and my dad was a professional football player. He actually used to play for one of the teams in the Premier League in Zimbabwe.
Serious?
Yeah. Okay. So this was actually serious for them. It was serious for them, and ultimately, if there's anything that we were going to copy, at one point I thought I was going to be a police officer, and it's natural. You look up to whoever you've got there.
You're arresting them,
yeah. I quickly found out that I don't want to be a police officer.
It's a hard job, man.
It's a tough one. So ultimately, for me in those terms, I didn't actually have a plan. It started sort of knocking me slowly into what I think I should be doing by doing what I don't want to do, until it stresses me enough to think something has to change here. So I got to a point where, because boredom can be really stressful.
Oh man,
like
boredom
is painful. So I was getting to a point where, and I know this will probably make me sound so big-headed, but I know there's people who relate to this, where you go to work and actually switch off. Because you walk in, I got to a point where I'd walk in, look around, and I would figure out all the issues that have happened before I came in, know what to do about them to fix them, and almost anticipate what issues are going to take place because of how I've seen it. So we worked a 3 rotational shift.
Yeah.
So at the point that you walk in, you're being handed over from the previous shift. Yeah. So you can actually just look and think, all right, they probably went through this problem. They didn't finish this off, and this is what I'm going to do about it. Yeah. And within the first 10, 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, I figured out what the rest of the day is going to look like. Oh, wow. And it got really boring at some point. And I got so good at my job that I wasn't being challenged anymore. And when you get to that point, as good as
there's no growth,
there's no growth, and just being stagnant. And I was switching off. You know, when you clock in, you switch off, and you actually switch on when you leave the job. And that was starting to slowly eat away at me. So that's when the first question came up in my head, kind of subconsciously. What else is there? You know, what else is there? And all along, whenever that question popped up, it will be promotion. So I was an apprentice, and then I became an operator, and then I became a team leader, and then a supervisor. It's like, okay, what's the next role?
And to the outside world, you're crushing it.
Absolutely killing it.
Killing it,
Like,
cruising.
Literally, even in my workplace, it was like, this is the guy that we want to work with.
Okay.
Right. And I always had different opportunities in different places. And it doesn't surprise me that that was the case, because I always wanted that challenge. I'm like, okay, what's the next thing? I loved it when someone said that's not possible. Loved it. It's like, you can't do that.
So to you, do you take that as fuel, as motivation?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. I'm like,
say that's not what.
Like, you can't do that?
Nah.
All right, I'll give it a try.
Okay.
So the reason why I actually ended up getting the role as a business improvement manager is because whenever we had what we classed as bottlenecks in the process, right, someone would be asked to go look into it. What's happening there? And then whenever the managers or the heads would be looking at that, and they have someone who says, well, that's not possible, we're not going to be able to do that, we have to deal with this bottleneck. And I'm like, well, can I have a look at it?
Okay, yeah.
And then I would study it and actually figure it out on how we can actually get this so-called bottleneck to run more efficiently. And the solutions might not be what people might like, but then it still works.
Yes.
And because of that, sort of like slowly moved up the ladder.
Yeah.
Because if you're a good problem solver, and this is not just in the automotive industry,
Yes, anyway, yeah.
If you're a good problem solver, like, people want to work with you.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that's actually what the engineering, whatever Latin word means, problem solver.
Problem solver.
You know?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, anything. I mean, now that's actually interesting, man. So yeah, property.
Yeah, the property element. So when I started struggling in my role, where you're starting to feel like, this is not challenging anymore, I had that question of what else is there? And then I looked up, and the next role was general manager.
Yeah.
And I always try to do the next job up even without being paid.
Yeah.
Right, so I can have a feel for it. And when I looked up, I wasn't inspired.
Hey, general manager.
I wasn't inspired by the role.
Wasn't there like company incentives, like, you know, GM?
Yeah, I mean, that would be nice. All of that. All of that. It came, but it didn't invite me. You know, when you look up and you're like, oh, one day I'm gonna be, and I looked up and I wasn't excited about it.
So at that time, because you said something, you're not inspired. Were you seeing other things elsewhere, like on TV? Because obviously things on TV, like, a lot of people think they're far-fetched.
Yeah.
You see a movie, you see these cars. So when you say you're not inspired, means like you must have seen other things.
What I used to do was so when I was, for example, an operator, and I'm working on the production line, and I had a team leader. Say you are my team leader.
Yes.
What I used to do was I would understand firstly what my primary role is.
Yep.
Right, and I'd do it very well.
Yep.
Once I've done that very well, my next challenge in my head is like, okay, what's the next thing? I always looked up to my immediate supervisor, so my team leader, and I would understand your role. What is it that you do every day?
Yep.
And then what I used to do was start to take away some of your role whilst I was doing what I'm doing.
What you're doing, Yes.
So that if at any point in the future I get promoted to being what you're doing, I'm not new at it.
Okay.
I've been doing it for a while.
Makes sense.
So when I did that for the GM part, I wasn't interested. Okay. I wasn't too excited about the noise, because that role took away from what I really enjoyed, which was the problem solving in terms of the technical parts, the work itself. That role is fully on people. Yeah,
so more like politics, recruitment, and all that.
Exactly. Okay. And I wasn't interested in that. It wasn't fun. Yeah.
Interesting, because you're more like a people's person. So
so here's the interesting part.
Is it maybe the transition, because you came into property, then you became a people's person?
No, not at all. Not at all. The interesting part is I've always been a people person.
Yeah.
And the reason why I got so good at problem solving is because I was so much of a people person. One of the things that, so the business improvement part of it, one of the biggest mistakes that people made was to go straight into the process. Ignore the people who've been doing the job forever.
Yeah.
Just go into the process and say, well, this is what I think we should do. We should do this. But what I did before I even looked at the process was have a good relationship with the people that have been doing it.
Yes.
And I would have great conversations with them. And then that's when the real gems started coming out. Yeah. You know, when you give someone 10 minutes to do a role,
Yeah.
and they've been doing it for 20 years, they can tell you how to do that job in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can do that job in 2 minutes and pretend to be working for the rest of the 8 minutes.
Yeah.
My question to them was, okay, how can we make this better for you? And then the more times you had those conversations, the more you realize, actually, if we change this and change that, you can get a solution that works for the person who's working there and also for the managers trying to save money.
Yeah.
So I've always been a people person. But then once you get to the GM role, the recruitment side of it, the politics of it, which takes you away from the process itself, it's now down to your metrics are on reducing the manpower, for example. Yeah. So you're now seeing people as numbers rather than people.
Okay.
Whereas I'm talking to you, this is Tabo.
Yeah.
Right? But when I'm in that role, it's like, right, the metrics are, we've got too many people here, right? We need to reduce from 500 and go to 425 in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're no longer a person to me. You're now just a number. And that part of it was just too brutal for my liking. So I decided not to even consider it. But then again, the question came up. Since I'm not liking where I am now, because I'm no challenge, what's the next thing?
Next step.
And then it's kind of like I just opened up to whatever's actually going on. And then fortunately, round about that time, this is when I heard about a property training course.
Okay.
And I'm like,
so you
training course.
Property training course. So who brought that idea to you?
It was actually my wife's friend.
Okay.
Who's now a really good friend of mine as well.
Yeah.
And
is she in properties or?
At the time she was.
Okay.
But I'm not sure she still is now.
Okay.
So at the time she talked about property training. And I'm like, hold on a second. In terms of property, you need to raise a deposit, buy your house on a mortgage.
Yes.
What training do you need?
Yeah. Well, what are you training
What
for?
are you training
Are you training
for?
to be a builder?
So what the hell?
What's property training?
I was like, what the hell? What do you mean?
Yes.
And then I was kind of resistant. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't really too keen on it. But as they were talking a lot more, she managed to convince my wife.
Yes.
Of which my wife and her sister were fully convinced that this is the thing that they wanted to do.
Wow.
Right? And this training was in Manchester. I like driving. They hate driving. And it was a 2-day course. So they convinced me to drive them up there.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, let's just make a weekend of this.
Yes. Okay.
Just go to the
So to you, it was a weekend break.
It was just a weekend break. It's kind of like, let's
like
go away.
a breakthrough for your life.
Oh my gosh. So I went there.
That's a
Really,
good
I was
title.
like, it really was. I went there really skeptic, thinking, oh, here we go. These people are just going to spend the whole 2 days talking about how to raise deposits and how to buy a house on a mortgage.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be a case of, come on, stop wasting my time. Right. So I wasn't really keen on it.
Yeah.
But after the first day, I was the one who was more interested in this than the people that took me there.
Oh, wow. So what type of content did this company share with you that you're now fully engaged to say? What did they say?
Okay, so
what did they show you?
What really
did the trainer
stood
pull
out?
up in a Lambo?
Not even. I saw it. If they did, I probably wouldn't have actually listened. That would have made it worse for me. Can't stand that. So here, the thing was, what really stood out for me on that time was the concept of making money out of someone else's property. So in my head, this is, you know, this blueprint we were talking about how you go to college, you find a good job and then.
Yes.
In my head, the point where you are married, you have your home, you've got your kids, is the typical pinnacle of success.
Yes.
But taking it to the next level in my head was, we'll have enough money to actually buy another house that we'll rent out. At least.
So I mean that, like, a lot of people's plans to say, 2 houses, get rent.
Exactly. Being a landlord, that was like absolutely the high class. And in my head, I was like, maybe when I'm 80, I'd have one house.
And
Do you know what? That was actually an aspiration. And I thought if I were to ever to get a second house before I turn 80, that would be perfect. That would be. And then when I went to this course, I was like, are you kidding?
They told you.
Like, my expectations were down
wow.
here.
That's actually the reason why I obviously brought this up is like there's so many routes and
Yeah.
like different ways why people get into property, and obviously for the people listening to this, you know, you might be on the fence and you're like, you know what, let me just research and start this route, and because you've seen other people who are in it inspiring you and they're doing the exact same thing which maybe you want to do in the future.
Absolutely.
For me, as I mentioned to you, I've always had an interest in business, but like when I moved to the UK, no one knew about property. So I did finish work, go straight into the 9 to 5, working along. But like I always used to, read this magazine called the Forbes magazine. So one day, I was like, you know, like read Forbes mag, you know, all these entrepreneur mags. I used to like just read them, seeing what the tech companies are doing, you know, all that kind of stuff. So one day I'm just looking at there, I'm like, I'm seeing the billionaires list, and I'm like, what jobs are these guys doing? What jobs are they doing?
What are they doing to make that?
So like they can tell you like, oh, they made their money in like real estate, etc. So I was looking at that. Okay, I'm like, okay, real estate, like businesses, you know. I was like, okay, cool, real estate, you know. Then for some reason, I just went on the internet. I just started like read how to make money in real estate, how to get rich in real estate.
Right.
Yeah, just being curious, you know. Then because I searched that,
They start bombarding you with the training companies.
The ads started coming in. So there was a workshop. I forgot whether the first workshop I went to was in London or in Birmingham. But I remember like I took my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, to the workshop, and a few of my friends. I was like, guys, let's go real estate. If you want to be on this magazine, you need to be in real estate.
Oh, so your aspiration was being on the magazine?
Of course, man. That hasn't changed. You know, so when they had, but that course, like that training, they just gave us information. Like, what is this possible? No, because the
Crazy,
skeptic in me
right?
was like, nah, this is not
Absolutely,
true.
yeah.
This is not true. You know, so I mean, obviously that was like the foot into the property door. You know, and the guy, actually, the company which we went to was the Rich Dad Poor Dad company.
Oh yeah.
So after that, I went to read the book, you know, read it, like went on YouTube, listened to it, read hard copy, took notes, you know.
But that was a really good. Yeah. So I went to that training as well, and the book itself, oh gosh, it's fantastic, and it's so revealing. And I think it's like if you're in a position where you've never heard of the concepts of actually making money out of other people's assets and trying to understand how to generate cash flow, that's a really good book to start off.
Yeah, no,
really good book to start off.
Eye-opening. Eye-opening.
Because it was like when you go into school and you're working, it's almost like you're being trained to be an employee.
Yeah.
And it's a major mindset shift, being able to see yourself as an employer or a business person or someone who can actually generate income by looking at products and services. And that book, the way that he actually structured it, is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I would recommend that book, definitely.
No, for sure. So I mean, we like in this series we spoke about like our transitioning and our thinking of actually knocking on the property door. And for all of you watching, I mean, if you're watching this video, you must have like an interest in property. You've heard about property somewhere. So the next series I'm gonna do with Muzzie is actually in that training, what he learned and how he applied it to actually start a 7-figure property business, you know. So that's gonna be the next episode.
I'll prepare for it. I'll prepare for it.
Yeah, so if you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and share with other people you think we get value from these videos, and that encourages me to keep doing them and bringing special guests like Muzzie, people who are doing what you want to do, and I've got a wealth of knowledge here to come share their experiences, to come share their journey with everyone. So if you liked it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Before you go, Muzzie, is there anything you want to share?
Firstly, appreciating you actually inviting me, and hopefully all the information that we've shared was helpful to you guys. And if there is anything that anyone wants to ask me or connect with me, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I'll put your contact details in the description.
Awesome.
The video.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers. Thank you. Bye.